YouTube? Tired Metalhead Weatherman here. I hope you guys are doing well. In this one, we are covering severe weather and winter weather. Pretty much you can call this a weekly forecast in a sense. We can't quite reach all the way into Friday as of right now based on model data from the Euro that we have here. I'm mainly going to be talking about the severe weather threat on Thursday, as we've already had a enhanced risk for a while now. But of course, with the most recent severe event, it's been kind of hard to cover that. So let's go ahead and kind of jump into things here. We're also going to touch up on the winter storm that's affecting the Northwest too. But we also have to talk about what happened last night and today really as well, because both yesterday and today have been pretty active. So we're going to try to see if we can get into the get into the archives here. I'm going to start out with today. You can see 7 tornado reports, all of which have been in Illinois, actually. The greatest tornado risk originally was assessed to be towards Ohio, but so far there have been no tornado reports, all just wind reports. But it's funny how Mother Nature works sometimes. But this was more of a cold core setup today. Apparently, from what I've seen, the tornadoes over here towards Illinois were very photogenic, which is a very common association with cold core type storms like this. So it's pretty cool to see. Hopefully everybody got through without any trouble, and we'll kind of just go and we'll kind of start to slip into yesterday's outlook here, or yesterday's reports, I should say. We look at yesterday's reports, numerous wind reports, quite a few significant. We have 186 wind reports, 17 were above 65 knots or 75 miles an hour, 19 hail reports, and 14 tornado reports. Very widespread at that too. Looks like we did get a tornado that ended up popping up around Missouri as well. I was suspicious that would happen, but unfortunately I just did not have the energy to keep going with that live stream. I only got maybe 3 hours of sleep, and then before having to get up to go to work. So I wanted to, trust me, but I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I just didn't have enough. I just couldn't do anything else beyond that. Maybe there will be a day that comes where I can do this stuff without having to worry about anything. We'll see what happens. But very active day. A lot of tornado reports, including tornadoes that hit Norman and Oklahoma City itself. In fact, if you were watching the stream last night, and also thank you to anyone who might have been watching by chance, whether you watched for maybe 5 seconds or 5 minutes or however long, I just want to say I appreciate you. But yeah, we actually ended up watching a Storm Chaser's feed. I think it was Brandon Kopic. He was driving through Oklahoma City or Norman, and we saw the power flashes. So it's pretty interesting stuff. Unfortunately, there's been some bad news that there have been fatalities in Oklahoma from the storms. So my thoughts are with them, of course. But that being said, we still have more to do because, yeah, look at this right here. I've been making little jokes about this, but there's nothing to joke about with this system. We do have a marginal risk on Wednesday, but I'm not too worried about it as of right now, but I am going to keep a close eye on it. It's a very broad marginal risk area. Wouldn't be surprised if we get some sneaky little uptrend and we end up getting a slight risk. Where that will be, as of right now, I'm not sure of. I haven't even had a chance to look at these latest models, so things could look a lot different here. And as we go to days 4 and 8, we'll start with day 4. We've been talking about this the last couple of days, but this is the first time I've been able to make an actual video on this. And that is an enhanced risk that's been present for the last 2 days, I'd say, just about. This is stretching from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, all the way over towards cities to the east of Dallas. Tyler, Longview, you guys are in there. And in between, there's Jackson, Mississippi, Alexandria, Lufkin, Texas, Shreveport, Louisiana. Stretches all the way up into Little Rock here in central Arkansas. And this is flirting with being right on Memphis. This is the enhanced risk. The slight risk stretches all the way towards northwestern Georgia and goes back towards Dallas even. So it could be another very active day. Maybe there will be a live stream. It'll depend a lot on how work goes and what time these storms will fire. And, of course, good old Atlanta traffic. So that being said, we'll jump to day 5. And guess what? Atlanta, speaking of which, is in this slight risk here. Timing of this kind of leans a little bit towards the morning. That's what I saw in the 12Z runs, but the 18Z is probably going to look a little bit different. As we draw close to the event, the time kind of fluctuates a bit, but the entire state of Georgia is involved in there. So anywhere from those far southern Appalachians here, all the way down to the Florida Georgia line, we're going to be watching you for the slight chance of some severe storms. We can't forget Birmingham, although I think this will be a threat that exists early in the course of the day. Then, of course, there's all of South Carolina involved, so Charleston, Columbia, Spartanburg, and Charlotte, even in North Carolina. We're watching you guys in a lot of cities in eastern Tennessee. So that's what we have going on there. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to the vorticity and kind of hone in on that. Another thing going on here, too, that I haven't mentioned yet is the new winter storm that's developed across the Northwest. This will be probably named Winter Storm Quest by the Weather Channel, just for anyone that wants to be official about that. But this is going to be dropping some really significant rain and snow across the Northwest here. Some ridiculous totals. We'll be also looking at that in this video, but we're going to mainly be looking at severe weather first here. So here is Winter Storm Quest here, and look at the trough that's associated with it. This is heading into Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning, Eastern time it is. And then we can see how this trough really starts to dig in as we head into Wednesday afternoon and Thursday. This is probably where our severe storms have a chance of developing, but the forcing is not super strong. There's not a lot of dynamics available with this right now, so the threat will probably remain pretty minimal for the most part. As we head into Thursday, though, that's when things kind of change a bit. This is a very deep trough, very strong trough, and very cold trough, too, at the higher levels. So with this warm sector that we've had persisting over the southeast, eventually you would have to think with this kind of setup during this time of year, eventually there were going to be some fireworks in here, and lo and behold, here they are. This is looking towards Thursday afternoon, and this is Thursday evening. We could see multiple modes of storms just based off of what I can see here on the vorticity. Tornadoes, damaging winds, hail, all of it possible. I think the hail threat's going to be the least impressive of the three. And then as we go forward, we see that forcing develop, starting to get really strong here. And then towards Friday, we'll start to see an afternoon threat exist across the southeast. So there could be multiple rounds of this. It's going to be very interesting to watch how this all unfolds here. Let's make our comparison to the GFS. And what we'll see here is a pretty similar picture starting out. This will be Winter Storm Quest. If I can get this to go. Here's Winter Storm Quest coming in. We have that trough really starting to dig in now. Air's a little bit colder with this versus the Euro. Just a tad bit colder. But looks like the results all the same. A little bit more widespread, a little bit more focused across areas a little further north. I'm a little bit sus of southern, southwestern Missouri yet again being in the line of fire, so we'll have to watch and see if that area gets added in to a slight or enhanced risk. Then as we head towards Friday, and we're going to actually go ahead and just jump and look all the way into it here from Friday, because there is a notable threat with this. It looks like we're going to be mainly shifting towards the line of damaging storms, and we could see maybe 1 or even 2 rounds of this. This looks like it's going to be a thing for Friday morning, but of course, as we know, with us being 90 plus hours out, this is still prone to changing. We also have to watch this, as this is likely to end up becoming a notable winter storm for parts of the Ohio Valley and then eventually even the Northeast. And then after that, we should be done with it. So here's some parameters that we'll be looking at for the severe weather. We'll start out with the jet stream at the low levels now, since we're getting pretty close to range now. Start out by looking at the Euros version. If I can get this to move. So, in a sense, what we're looking for. So we're going to jump this pretty far ahead, actually. Ooh, that's a little too far. I really can't stand that little dead zone that I always end up seeing right here. We can see the low levels. We're already at a sufficient point with the low level jet. We're already at that 40 knot range, which is usually what you would look for the first signs of severe development. And this only intensifies as we head later into the day or later into the evening here. Low level jet's really starting to come into its own here as we head into OOZ, which would be about maybe, I would say 6-7 o'clock Central Time. But you can clearly see here we're getting towards that 50 to 60 knot range, so that's a huge red flag right there. I'm mainly seeing it favored across this corridor here. So that while there is a very broad enhanced risk area, I think the area that I'm really going to be interested in watching is going to be this little corridor right here. If it's at all possible to draw on here. I think my Epic Pen's not working. But right around this corridor here is where I would be concerned for the development of not just significant damaging winds, but also tornadoes. So we'll be watching that. And then, of course, as we head into the overnight, we'll probably see this transition more into a linear mode. And then this will probably be what ends up going through Birmingham, Atlanta, Nashville, and areas off to the east here. Still can't rule out the chance of some embedded supercells that could produce tornadoes, just like what we saw over here towards Oklahoma and Texas. But we'll hash out those details at a later time. Let's make our comparison with the GFS here. So if I can get this to go. Same look. Jetstream gets a little bit more intense earlier than the Euro does here. So that's one little bit of variability that's going to have to be watched really close. Also, the maximum is a little bit different here. We're now looking over towards this part of east central Louisiana, heading into central Louisiana, and parts of not Memphis but Mississippi here, that has a really strong jet maximum over here. And I think this is going to be an area that will be of interest for tornadic activity. If there's a small little maximum right here, this is going to be this could be a big problem, because it's in a position that I don't really like when it comes to tornado genesis. So it becomes a little bit more broad over time, and I think overnight the tornado threat could increase a bit. If we can hold on to that instability and surface heat, this could be a big problem. Then, of course, it's the same deal towards the end. It becomes linear, and we have a extended threat that could last all the way into Saturday evening across the Carolinas, or Saturday morning across the Carolinas. Okay, I don't know why that sound popped up. Okay, so now that we've looked at that, let's go ahead and take a look at the surface temps and then the dew points. Alright, so here we are looking at the temps. This is what our current temperatures are kind of looking like at this point. Starting to transition more so towards OOZ at this point. But again, very warm across the south. We're in that negative PNA pattern, so it's going to be really cold across the northwest. Hence why we're getting those extensive snow showers. Towards the coast, maybe towards Southern California, is where we're going to end up getting more of the rain in this situation here. Excuse me. But we can see as we head into Wednesday, that warm sector becomes more abundant across the east here. And when we get into Thursday, here's that low pressure approaching here. You can see the contrast point here. Here's our below freezing temperatures. Here's our 70-degree temperatures here. So we have a good idea of where our flash point's going to be heading into Thursday here. So that low is going to be lurking back there. The forcing is going to be at a point where it's going to be sufficient enough for severe weather, but maybe subtle to where we see a mode of discrete storms develop early. And this will hold out for a bit, especially as we look more so towards Louisiana and Mississippi here in particular. I really think that if there's going to be an upgrade to moderate risk as of right now, I'm thinking this region is going to be it. So that being said, we can see that warm air continuing to advect as we look towards Friday. There's our front right here. So anywhere ahead of this line right here as we head towards 12Z on Friday, which would be about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, that's where we're looking at the potential for severe weather. So that being said, let's make that comparison with the GFS. It's not too much different here. Again, a lot of warm air, very big warm sector across the south. This leads to increased potential for severe weather as we head into Wednesday afternoon and into Thursday. It's a similar deal. Here's the front right here. Here's where those colder temperatures are. There's a little bit more separation between the two with the GFS here. But as we go forward, it's a similar deal. Very strong warm sector out ahead of it. So damaging line of straight line winds, very much possible here. Embedded supercells can't be ruled out either. And then as we head towards Friday, across the southeast, across Georgia, parts of Alabama, and then Tennessee, then the Carolinas in particular, I'm really concerned about that area. Sorry if I sound dry. But we can clearly see that these storms are going to be packing a wallop as we head into the evening hours of Friday. And it's not really until Saturday where it looks like these storms are going to be out of there. Doesn't really cool down either after that point either, by the way. Just a little spoiler for you guys. So jump over to the dew points, get an idea of what our moist sector looks like. Then we'll get a overall view of the entire country in this situation. So here we are looking at Wednesday evening as well, because there is a marginal threat. Dew points are sufficient enough. The surface temperatures are sufficient enough. Like I said, it's mainly going to be lift or forcing that's going to be the inhibiting factor with this setup for Wednesday, but that will not be the case Thursday, and some very rich dew points end up coming into play here as we head into the early hours of Thursday. Look at this pocket of 70s that pops up here towards southern Texas. And it even tries to sneak its way up towards areas like Tyler and Lufkin as we head into the evening hours here. Very abundant warm sector. This could make for a very dangerous night. I don't think we'll have the same kind of cap issue that we would have over here towards Texas and Oklahoma. I don't think that's the kind of setup that we'll have here. We'll see if that ends up being the case, but this is definitely this definitely is taking the shape of a classic Dixie Alley type setup. And then as we head towards Friday afternoon or Friday morning, that moist sector is still very abundant. May even have to watch some areas over here towards Kentucky, because I think even though the surface temperatures may not be as impressive there, it may yet be enough to cause a little bit of a small cold core chance or a cold core setup. So a lot to still be determined with this setup here. Here's the moist sector across the south as far as Wednesday is concerned, actually. Still pretty abundant. Thursday, it's a similar deal. Maybe not quite as moist, but it's widespread across the board versus just that one pocket of 70s right here. Looks like it still could happen, but it doesn't look like it quite makes it. Actually, it's more widespread now, actually. But very abundant warm sector here, or moist sector here, and this progresses onward as we go towards Friday. So very alarming signs here as far as the severe setup is concerned. So I guess the next thing to do here would be to look at the precip type. Start out with the Euro, and we'll start out actually by looking back towards the northwest, and we'll start to go over the snowfall totals after that. So here comes Winter Storm Quest. Widespread snow across the northwest. It's going to be persistent for at least the next couple of days. And then there's another storm system that could be coming in behind that to add additional snow to the totals there. And then, of course, as we head into Thursday afternoon, here is our severe setup starting to come into play here. That cold air that's right behind it will allot for some snow to fall across parts of New Mexico and even Colorado and Kansas. This is pretty far east for the Rockies right here. It'll be interesting to see how much snow we'll get out of that setup. But we head towards 18Z here. We can already start to see a little bit of storm activity starting to fire. Looks semi-discreet, and we could probably see a mixed bag as we head later into the evening. A squall line starts to develop as we get towards Thursday night. And then eventually, wow, we see snow even wrapping around the backside of this. That's pretty freaking nuts. And there's a little bit of potential here where we could have a little battle zone for some ice here. Wouldn't even rule out the chance for some thunder snow because this is a really strong low pressure here that the Euro has. But this is as far as we can go on the Euro. We can clearly see, though, that very stout storm system is in play here at this point. I think for severe, all hazards are definitely possible there. So we'll jump over to the GFS. We'll look at the precip with that. Very similar deal. A little bit more aggressive on the totals. On the overall snowfall towards the northwest as we head into Tuesday, especially. As we go into Wednesday here, excuse me, we start to see our severe setups begin to develop here. Here's our marginal risk on Wednesday. The GFS seems to be leans a little bit more into that outlook there. I don't really see this being upgraded to a slight risk there, but we'll see what happens. A little snow band that develops over here towards New Mexico, which is really interesting. Almost had the look of a squall line. So snow squalls could be possible there. And then, of course, as we head towards Thursday, here's our severe setup beginning to develop. Not quite as high resolution as the Euro, so of course it's going to look a little bit different. But at the end of it all, we still do see that squall line develop. I think the threat may exist a little bit further to the north, too. I do think question will be more so along the lines of surface temperature and moisture returns for this region. Mainly the surface heating there, but can't be ruled out. And then as we head towards the afternoon, we'll see this squall line start to work its way through Birmingham into Atlanta probably by Friday afternoon, and then into the Carolinas by Friday evening before that storm system heads out of here. But not before transitioning into a much larger snow system, Questwell, and then we can see additional snow across the northeast before all is said and done. So a lot going on with this upcoming week here. It's going to be interesting to cover all of it, but looking forward to it. Hopefully everybody comes out of this one safe and sound. One last thing we can look at here are the snowfall totals and the ice totals. We're going to start out looking at the Euro's outlook. Some pretty impressive snowfall totals with these so far. Of course, these are the global models. The closer we get to the event, these totals are going to fluctuate, I feel like. But widespread snow is possible, especially around the Rockies and a little bit to the east of it, too. Could be some big winners over here towards New Mexico in particular, where if that snow squall comes to fruition that we saw with the GFS. Across the mountains in the northwest, we know what the deal is. Sierras, of course, ridiculous snow possible there. And then Denver, looks like you guys are getting stiff. You might be in the snow hole here, so to speak, figuratively and literally, as we may only see about a trace up to an inch possibly around there. Everything looks like it's going to be mostly contained around the higher elevations. And then there's a sneaky little clipper system that we see popping up over here towards the Dakotas. That could come into play as well. And this can also ultimately end up merging with Quest here and bringing in more significant snow towards the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, parts of Minnesota again. You guys are probably about tired of snow at this point now because you guys have been getting walloped over the last few weeks in particular. Then, of course, as we head over towards the northeast, pretty impressive snowfall totals there. Compare this to the Canadian model. It's a pretty similar deal. totals are a little bit more aggressive with this, but that's nothing new. This is what we tend to expect out of the Canadian. Snow even tries to make it as far south as even some parts of Mexico here. Not unheard of for them, but doesn't happen all the time. That's for sure. Switch this over to the GFS, and it's a pretty similar look. There's a lot of model agreement with this, so if there's one thing that's encouraging about both Winter Storm Quest and the severe weather outlooks, there's a good bit of model agreement. Not too much variance. There's little unique characteristics, but nothing of major concern that will make me start casting things into doubt. So let's go ahead and look at ice totals here, because I am a little bit suspicious of what could be ahead here. So far, towards central Michigan, there's a small chance of some ice occurring here. Mainly going to be centered around maybe about a little over 1/10 of an inch in some spots. Towards the mountains around West Virginia and Pennsylvania, we could see up to 1/10. A couple areas over here towards the Pennsylvania New York border, we could be watching for some ice accumulation there as well. But I don't really see a whole lot that screams to me big time ice storm as of right now, which is great news. Of course, we have the Canadian, which always likes to be really aggressive. GFS is a tad bit more aggressive with this as well. Not entirely unheard of for this model, but we can see up to about maybe a 1/4 inch plus, maybe some places getting up to 3/10 of an inch. Still nothing to make me believe that we have a major ice storm on our hands right now. I'll look into this a little further tomorrow, but as of right now, I'm not really concerned so much about ice. I think the big thing with this system is going to be snow. And even with the blend of models here, we're not really seeing a whole lot. There's maybe one little pocket over here towards the state line between Pennsylvania and New York where we could get close to that 1/4 inch ice mark. And that's when the impacts really start to get significant. Even so, if you have up to 1/10 of an inch ice, these roads can really start to become treacherous. So if the officials are saying maybe don't go out on the roads and just kind of stay home, I would recommend following that advice. That being said, that's the end of this video here. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know it was a little long, but if you did enjoy it, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video because there looks like there's going to be some nasty weather ahead for somebody. And also, of course, if you would let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the weather ahead for this week. But this has been Tyler, Metalhead Weatherman. I'll see you guys in the next video. Probably will be tomorrow afternoon. Until then, take care.